Opening scene. We are not with our Emons Field 5. We are not with Lanham Moraine. We are in Galen with Logain in the middle of his invasion of the Gildan capital, the castle, with the king. The king is on the run.
The king is on the run. The king is on the ropes. And I thought Logain was going to kill him, to be honest with you. Like, part of me was really like, wait, I thought he was listed as being on the cast for 2 episodes, but Logain's about to kill him right here. But then he doesn't kill him, even though the Sidene people are telling him to.
Let's talk about those Sidene people. I personally loved them.
Yeah.
I loved the Sidene people. I love how they are like growing and curling. Looks like blood vessels almost. Ah!
Kill her.
Sarah,
right now. She'll betray you.
I don't want to scare you, but there is a I don't want to scare you, but there is a Sidene horse right next to you. A Sidene zebra.
She's going to betray you. Kill her.
I loved them. I loved how they grew up and around the faces. It looked like nerves or blood vessels. I loved that one was a lady and one was a man. And I wondered about that at first until Logain told us about who they are.
Yeah, I liked it.
Who he thinks they are. I thought it was a terrific visual representation of the madness. Oh my God, Sarah. What? I don't want you to look. Don't look. Don't.
Okay, I'm not gonna turn. I'm not gonna look. What's going on?
There is a Sidene Pikachu directly over your right shoulder.
Pika. Kill her! I couldn't kill her.
Oh no!
No, I'm sorry.
Sidene gremlins. I loved it. I thought it was a great visual representation of the madness.
Yeah, I'm sorry. They have been dubbed taint puppets. Thank you, Lisa Donaldson. I love the taint puppets.
Love the
Crazy
taint
Cat
puppet.
Lady as well.
Got it.
So
sorry.
Here's a question for you from Miran. Do you think the voices are his madness, or is he being influenced externally?
I believe that's his madness because it looks like they are physical manifestation of the corruption of the taint, right? Because that's what they're made of. So I think it's his madness. I don't think he's being influenced by like a Forsaken or by the Dark One himself. In so much as you mean the Dark One made the taint, but I don't think he's directly communing with Logain. I think that is his madness.
Yeah,
and he's much more mad. He's much more mad than he was in the books when we meet him.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that is genuinely his madness. Sorry, I cut you off with my little puppet bits, Mary Lou, but you were saying...
I finished it.
Yeah.
I think.
But yeah, to that point that Logain thinks that he was communing with past dragons and one of them was a woman. It is interesting and definitely in line with what we've heard from Rafe thus far. I like it. I think it's cool. I like this Logain. I like the idea that if you're like looking at it from Logain's perspective, Logain doesn't have the privilege of having been witness to Gitara Moroso's prophecy and knowing when the dragon was reborn.
Right.
So to him,
he's
I'm
convinced.
A super powerful channeler. I've got these voices telling me they're the past dragons and they're helping me learn how to channel. And I mean, he can do stuff like he can heal, which is a complex weave canonically.
Right.
Like he actually knows a lot, which is interesting. It makes sense. Like I would,
And he's deft. He's very deft with his weaves. It doesn't seem as crude and bludgeony as a lot of like Sidene channeling can be. He seems quite precise, quite accurate, and very powerful. So if I were Logain, I'd probably be like, yeah, I am the Dragon Reborn. Everybody's telling me how to do it. And somehow these voices like are teaching me to channel. Yeah. And maybe that's just like him teaching himself because he's uber powerful and things just come to him more naturally. But he thinks the voices are teaching him.
Yeah. And we do see Nynaeve do that. We see Rand do that. So these powerful channelers can sometimes like manifest weaves. Like the first time Nynaeve uses Balefire in the books, no one's taught her how to do it.
Right. Exactly. What I loved especially was that he didn't listen to them. That was a conscious choice on the showrunners and the writers' parts to show us that Logain is not a bad guy. And so that's different from what we thought Logain would be. I thought Logain was going to be the big bad of this season, and that's who we were trying to defeat and trying to get at. And then we find out much later that he's actually a good person and can be helpful. But we find out almost right away that he actually is a good person. He does not want to break the world. He wants to bind it. And there's a place for anyone at his side, even his enemies. And he heals the king, which I was so glad about, because honestly, I was so distracted by that nasty wound. The whole time the king was on camera, I was like, all I could look at was this like grody flesh blood wound. And I was like, man, they're really leaning into this. And then, Logain takes care of it. I really liked that. That showed me so much about his character.
I liked him a lot. I liked, this is kind of a minor thing. I really liked the accents of Logain and the Gale Dunning King, because they weren't British accent. And I'm like, oh, good. We're not stuck in British accent Fantasyland forever. Which was great.
Were they the same? They seem to be both kind of Spanish.
I think they were kind of both Spanish-ish.
Which I like, because that makes sense why Logain would try and take over Ghealdan first, if he was from Ghealdan.
Yeah.
Which I don't think he is in the books, but it's interesting.
I like the scene where he tries to stab Logain and Logain like turns his hand around. And I mostly like it because I was imagining them filming it, and it's just funny to think of the actor like, oh no, my hand! But also I thought as well, I thought the Saidin looked okay. I didn't love the way the tank puppets looked. I like the idea of them a lot. I like that Logain is hearing the voices of past dragons in his head, or he thinks he is.
I kind of wish they were. What didn't you like about it?
I guess I wish they were a little bit less literal.
Substantial?
Like maybe just like kind of flickers, suggestions of forms, but mostly voices, I think is what I would have liked, because like as far as we as viewers understand what we're seeing, it seems like that's genuine weaves of Saidin that are making those heads. And it's also in his head, and it is madness. So like it doesn't have to make sense, but I wanted to be a little less substantial, mostly just because it looked like CGI, like when it had it that much. And I'm like, oh, that's like a CGI face. But I really like the idea. And I like that. I like that manifestation of madness for him.
Yeah. I also, it was very CGI. It was very CGI. Yeah. I liked the idea. I liked the way it looked like nerve endings or blood vessels. I thought it was a very artistic way. But I think I'm imagining what you're describing about how like maybe it's just weaves and then all of a sudden it's a face and it's like, and then it disappears again. That would have been super cool. It's just a choice, right? And
it's a choice. Alyssa, this is a book spoiler stream, yes.
This is a book spoiler
stream. People in the chat are already talking about it, so let's move on. Let's just kind of follow. We're not going to go chronologically through the episode. Let's just follow Logain through the episode. We're going to
follow Logain's story all the way through, and then we'll follow whoever else is important. Then let's do Perrin and Egwene, and then we'll save Rand, Matt, and Tom for last, just so you know where we're going to get to. So next...
I saw some complaints, Mary Lou, that I'd like to hear your take on.
Yes.
The complaint runs like this, and... this was a long Reddit thread with a ton of comments on it. So people in our comments, you might have seen this as well. But, the idea was basically, why have they nerfed Logain? And I'm going to give you a couple of their reasons first. And then I want to see how you feel about them. So the very first reason given is, okay, in the books, it took 13 Aes Sedai, or so this person says. We can dispute that. It took 13 Aes Sedai, including Codswan, to take down Logain and to shield him. In the books, it takes many more Aes Sedai to shield a very powerful male channeler like Logain, who is canonically like the 8th strongest man, I think, just a tier under Rand. And it took they had 6 Aes Sedai at any one time sustaining the shield on Logain. In the show, we see Logain's shield being sustained only by 2 women, which suggests he's not as strong in the books, or at least like the relative power levels of Logain to Karenni, Liandrin, Moiraine, and Olenna is different. So that's point number 1. So let's stop here. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I
Oh, sorry. Just because we got this question from Prose Dragon, I think it was 7 Aes Sedai linked at the end when they gentled him.
Oh, good. Yeah, I didn't count that, but I knew it was a lot. I don't buy it. I don't think they've nerfed him. The first time we see Aes Sedai shielding him, they explicitly talk about how difficult it is and how crazy it is that they need only 3 of them are strong enough. Only 3 out of all those Aes Sedai in the camp are strong enough to do it. And it takes 2 of them. And as soon as Moiraine gets linked into that shield, she's like, oh, you can see that, that physical thing that she does with her body when she feels his power. And they talk about, look, he's not even breaking a sweat. He looks like he's sitting. He looks like he's meditating. He doesn't look like he's trying at all. And we're sitting here, white knuckled on these thrones, trying our best to keep him shielded. And so, I mean, part of it is just like TV. They're not going to have 13 main characters already enough to shield and gentle him, right? These are the main characters we have. Right. And so they're talking about how difficult it is to show us, to tell us that he is so stronger. Alana literally says his power is unlike anything I've ever seen. Right. Like he's special. Right. He's a big ass deal. And he's unlike anything they've ever seen. So maybe he's not as strong as he is in the books, where it's just like a tier under Rand. But then, okay.
Yeah.
That's okay with me.
I agree completely. A few people have said this in the comments, so I'm not going to bring it up, but know that commenters have said it before me. I do think they are, in the show, going to be balancing out the male and female power levels. So the idea that...
In the books, right.
Yeah, there's you can go look at the Wheel of Time companion, or you can go to the Wheel of Time wiki, and you can see the power chart where every single channeler mentioned is put on a specific strength level, and you can say, well, Logain is 7 levels above Egwene or whatever. First of all, that's boring nerd shit.
It's boring, and it doesn't make for good TV, you guys. Like, if he's so strong, then nobody could fight him, and the TV show would be over. Ta-da! TV show over, episode over.
I will Shaitan's advocate for hardcore nerd power rankings. I do think it makes the stakes feel harder. It's like the same why a hard magic system is good, according to Brandon Sanderson. It makes the things that happen feel authentic and legitimate. And if you look at a fight in a Marvel movie, the strength is wildly vacillating based on narrative convenience. And so it's unsatisfying. Because you're like, oh, well, Iron Man can beat Captain America here because the story called for it, but Captain America beats Iron Man here because the story called for it. So I do like the idea that the writers have in mind who would win in a one-on-one direct power off. But that's just rarely what's happening.
Yeah.
And also the idea that women have to be weaker than men in that system is dumb and bullshit.
I think that I'm pretty sure if I were the writers and if I were Rafe, I would have taken that idea day one, thrown it out the window.
It's gone.
There's absolutely just not canon, no longer a thing. If you liked that from the books, if you wanted that from the books, sorry, I don't think it exists in this world. That power difference between women and men. I bet when they make circles, it's not going to be like a man has to be the one in control of the circle. Or maybe it will. I don't know. But that inherent strength difference, I think, is not going to happen in this show. So let it go.
Yeah, so William Sullivan says men can't link, and that's the kind of thing I think the writers' room might very well just do away with. There's no reason to have those gendered rule differences for the magic system, I don't think. And also, as a lot of people said, I think Logain was definitely holding back. I think he could have broken free from that shield whenever he wanted to, but didn't until the time was right because his army was there.
I think so as well. I think he was holding back and he was waiting for his army because he didn't want to kill everyone. We've just seen his compassionate side, how he wants everybody on his side. The Aes Sedai should be backing me, not fighting me. So how would he get all the Aes Sedai to back him if he murdered every single one of them? Right.
And he also broke free from Corrine, Moiraine, and Liandrin all shielding him at the same time later. So he was just not trying before that. And people complain about, in the same line of thinking, I saw complaints that well, Lan asks Moiraine, like, is he stronger than Egwene? And Moiraine is like, I don't know. And they're like, what? What do you mean he's not necessarily stronger than Egwene? Logain is so much stronger than Egwene.
She
It's like,
can't
well,
know that though.
she can't sense his power. She can only
She
feel
can't
the
sense his
effort he
power.
was expending. And also, Min gain power in leaps and bounds. So it's possible, like, she can sense Egwene's full potential, but she can only feel the power output Logain is emitting when she's interacting with him.
Yeah.
So it might even be that Logain's max power at that moment in his life was equal with where Egwene's potential is, and he just hasn't attained his full potential.
Yeah. Quite
Anyway,
possible.
This is all me just wanting to engage with some nitpicky, but the book's bullshit.
We see you. We see you. We get it. But
we get it, but
and
we also think the writers get it. Like, I don't think these are decisions the writers are making lightly about how all this works.
No. I really, really quickly want to just mention super fast that I love that Logain has been aged up. Because one, that tells me that he survived his madness for a very long time. Because we talk about all of the men going insane very young, right? So he's managing his madness by either, rationalizing them as dragons, right? Or we know he can fight them, right? He resists them. He doesn't do everything they say. And so maybe that's taken up a lot of his time and energy and effort. And maybe that's why he's not at his full strength yet, because he's been dealing with holding back this madness.
Yeah. I like that idea.
I like Pentorp Tash. Yeah, I like this comment very much. I would prefer it if men can link, but think that they can't, because no man ever has. And so men can't link. That's not something men can do. But it's like, yeah, you can. You've just never tried because you never thought you needed help or could form a circle or anything like that.
And I also think the show, it's an interesting question of how you handle stuff like this. Like, when you're making a show that is engaging with the ideas of toxic masculinity, which it's clear the show wants to talk about what a healthy masculinity could look like. And the question is, do we show and critique the toxic masculinity that exists in our system, or do we use the opportunity to depict what a less toxically masculine world could look like? And it seems like the show is leaning that direction, like the affection between the warders that they're happy showing each other, the non-toxic attitudes towards homosexuality that we've seen a couple, like, many male characters now. So I think they're going the other direction. I do agree with you that this is something Robert Jordan was getting at when he was coming up with that rule system.
Definitely.
And I do think it's interesting. It's just like, how does the show want to tackle engaging with that?
Yeah.
So
I think we're going to see Logain get even stronger when he's no longer dealing with the taint, with the corruption, and when he's, allowed to flourish as a leader and as a channeler and not as a false dragon.
Yeah. Nahid asks if we will have videos from the episode. We won't, because last time we tried to and Amazon took down our stream. So
copyright go. They did not let that.
Copyright.
They got us within like 20 minutes too. It was quick.
I wish we could. Yeah. Tovia Andi Satovius again says, I think the gender dynamics is what makes the series great, and why are we shying away from the differences between the genders? And I will say, Tovia Andi Satovius again, there's a difference between gender dynamics and inherent differences between the genders. And there's also a difference between socially entrenched gender differences in gender roles and having a magic system that is reflective of innate, inherent reality, substantiating gender differences. And that's why I think the magic system shouldn't do it, but socially they can engage with those.
Yeah. And I just find that more interesting, right? To see how the social and cultural elements of of this world impact their channeling, right? So it's not the magic system itself that is dictated by gender differences, except for, in the very basic way that it absolutely is. I'm more interested in how sociocultural effects impact the way that specific channelers channel. I think that's just more interesting.
Agreed. But let's talk about, I think, kind of the last like Logain lore question that's brought up by the episode, and then I'd like to ask about Logain just as a character in the acting, what we like about him. But the last lore question that I've seen discussed online and even in this chat is at the very end, after Nynaeve's Super Saiyan moment, Logain says, well, you have it. You're the Radiant Sun, Aja. So what does he say, Mary Lou?
When Nynaeve is screaming in anger and fury and frustration, and she heals the entire room. What's his name? Logain. Sorry.
Logain.
Had an ADHD moment. Logain references a previous conversation that he has with Moiraine. I want to talk about that conversation, by the way, Sarah. In which he says, her power is like the radiant sun, compared to what Moiraine says his is just a pinprick or a drop. And her power is the radiant sun. Question is,
how does he know?
Could he see that? How did he know she was a radiant sun? Because men are not supposed to be able to see weaves of Saidar, just as they've told us that women are not able to see weaves of Saidin. So what did he see, Sarah? What do you think? What do you think he saw?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. So I do not think this scene is telling us Logain could see Saidar.
I don't think that either.
The show made canon that Moiraine cannot see his weaves, and I don't think he can see her weaves. I think Nynaeve was literally emitting light. I think that was part of what was happening. Like, the light was not figurative. The warders were shielding their eyes as well. Like, she was glowing, not just a Saidar glow, a physical glow, as part of this just like outburst of energy, because she didn't know what she was doing.
She's
like,
not
this
controlling
is pure
it at all.
Nynaeve rage, energy emitting, and some of it went into healing, but I think there was a lot of just excess energy that just expended his light. And I think Logain could see that. I think Logain could see that she simultaneously healed like 8 people from lethal wounds, which is an incredibly powerful thing to witness, even if he's not seeing the blinding light. And like, just he might be speaking figuratively that her power to do that is like the radiant sun. I think men can feel when women are channeling, so he might have just gotten all goosebumpy.
He might have felt the force of it, right? Probably like a force of wind. I have a different idea, Sarah. I think he saw her being a ta'veren. I think maybe she changed the weave in that moment, right? The pattern.
The pattern,
became a ta'veren in this moment. She changed the weave. All of these people were dying. Lan was bleeding out. Moiraine was gravely injured, right? I think she changed the pattern in that moment and made herself ta'veren. And we know that from the books that Logain has the talent to see ta'veren. So I think he was seeing her like becoming ta'veren in this moment, changing the path of the pattern. So excited.
I think that's very possible as well.
Goosebumps just talking about it. I just loved this moment.
Yeah, I think that's entirely possible as well. We do know Logain can see ta'veren, so he might be seeing her ta'veren nature in this moment. And just because there were rumors of 4 ta'veren does not mean there were only 4 ta'veren.
Or maybe there were at the time and she wasn't a ta'veren yet. And then she like manifested by changing the weave. The pattern was like, all right, you're also ta'veren now.
Yeah.
Or she like wrenched it for herself.
Because the thing is, the way ta'veren are described, Nynaeve is ta'veren. Like, Nynaeve has a much bigger impact on the pattern and on the success of the light than either Perrin or Mat do.
I think so as well. Yeah. I mean, by healing, like, spoiler,
she literally is one of the 2 who cleanses the Saidin and is one of the 3 engaged in the battle with Moradin at the end. Like, everything Rand did, Nynaeve was there. So except for like the whatever, like little epistemological psychic battle with the Dark One at TG. Um, but she was like there emotionally for him. Anyway, Nynaeve is definitely ta'veren. Don't fight me. Yeah, no, I'm with you, Mary Lou. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what the writers intended, or maybe they did, and they're changing things. Now we know Egwene is already ta'veren. Maybe they were like, it would be bullshit not to have Nynaeve be ta'veren if Egwene is also ta'veren.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
So maybe this was her moment. I don't know. I really like this idea. I hope they go with it. I hope. Well, so part of why I think they might not is that it makes it kind of, not really, but kind of cheapens the idea of a ta'veren. What do you think about that, Sarah? Is that instead of 3, now there's 5?
Yeah. I mean, why is the idea of ta'veren important, right? Like, narratively, the function ta'veren serves is as built-in canon plot armor that lets you kind of hand wave away some stuff. And it works in the boys' favor that way. And Dark Ones thinks that it cheapens their accomplishments. And
being a ta'veren.
And I see people say that. I've never personally felt like it cheapened any of the boys' accomplishments. I kind of feel like it makes them sympathetic because they're trapped in their role and they like don't really have the freedom to do otherwise. But I feel like the Wonder Girls are the same way. And
totally.
I was just reading. I'm in the Dragon Reborn on my reread right now, and I just got through the scene where Nynaeve, Egwene, and Elaine they're on the ship going down the tier. Their ship hit a mud flat. They're off the ship. They're walking. They meet the Aiel right in time to heal someone. Later, get kidnapped by the bandits. And the Aiel, including Aviendha, is one of these Aiel, happened to be there to rescue them.
Just happened.
And that's ta'veren shit. Like, they just... the ship runs aground. They run into Aviendha, of all people, and then the Aiel are there to save them from the Myrddraal. Not that they ended up needing it. Like, they all destroyed the Myrddraal with magic. But that's ta'veren shit, you know?
They've always been doing ta'veren shit.
Yeah. Hello, Dana Lou.
Hi, Dana.
And you're Dana Lou, who is right. You can smash that like. You can smash that subscribe. All that fun stuff.
You can smash.
Yeah. Let's while I'm thinking about it, while I'm being YouTubey, let's get that Patreon banner running again.
Let's do it. We love our patrons. Babs, Ash, back that ass up. Natalie McCartney, Paige Smith, Balance Gaming, Catherine Fink, and Mistress Dovier Katie.
Beautiful. That's our patron song. And if you want to join our patron song, you can find us on Patreon at Maidens of the Spear. Okay. Anyway, I don't think it cheapens anything. I think the girls have always been ta'veren. Personally, and what even is a ta'veren if not simply a main character in a fictional story who benefits from being a character in a story, and that's what they are.
Yeah,
but
I love them. So that's a lot of we've just talked about a lot of the lore and like thought and metaphysics of what we saw, but we haven't talked about a lot of the like little plot elements that we saw in the Aes Sedai camp. And I just have to talk about Moiraine's conversation with Logain when we get there. But I loved this camp with all of these warders being hilarious. That's very funny though. Listen, I've hated Steppen for so long because of his stupid leap in the trailers and because of his stupid acts that I hope he doesn't stupidly give to stupid parent, not stupid parent, stupid acts. But his conversation with Karenna, I thought was terrific. Really well acted.
I thought it was great.
Really funny, sweet, heartwarming. Showed me another one of those bonds that they talk about that is not romantic, right? So we see some warder bonds that are, but this one is decidedly not, but so intimate.
You thought so? I thought they might have been like a married couple.
Oh, maybe. Oh, they might have been. Yeah, absolutely. But either way, I saw this just incredible bond between the two of them that I really, really, really liked. And I loved how they talked about it in the conversation with all of the warders and Nynaeve, how he says how she says you serve them, and they all kind of like look at each other with those knowing eyes and go, no, we don't serve them. They serve everyone, and we are proud to assist, right? I thought that was an incredible moment, and it's good for Nynaeve to see, that not everything she thought was true.
I have some good news for you.
I know. Say it. I want to hear it.
Those axes.
What about them?
They will axe no more.
Thank God.
They were axing the fool,
destroyed.
And they got exploded by Logain.
Even more reason to love love Logain, right, you guys? Because he exploded those stupid axes.
I have a confession to make, though, Mary Lou.
Confess.
I didn't mind them in the context of the show.
When I saw them in battle, how sharp they were, and the way he'd go like sing, 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 and they slice necks. I actually really liked them in battle. They were shiny and sharp.
I liked where he was holding them because it was kind of they aren't really like axes. Yeah, they're like a gauntlet. They're like they're kind of like sharp brass knuckles or whatever. I thought they were kind of cool. Like if he were holding the bottom of the handle and chopping instead of like, using them kind of like size. Yeah. I actually thought they were okay. I'm glad it's not Perrin's axe.
I'm glad it's not Perrin's axe. Wow, they really tricked us with that.
Mauricio, I know the axes are terribly designed, and Mary Lou and I have talked for hours about why they're terribly designed.
They would be terrible axes, but they were terrible axes.
They're cool knives. They're like double knives.
Double knife hand things.
Yeah, it was cool. I liked the sword forms. I liked them practicing. I loved all the relationships between the warders. And before we get to the gay shit, I want to reinforce your point because I got distracted by the axes. I think it was really useful both for Nynaeve in the show, but also for the viewers who have not read the books to get a look at the variety of relationships you can have between Aes Sedai and warders. Mm-hmm. You can have the totally platonic, stoic Lan and Moiraine. You can have the kind of old married couple, whether romantic or not, of Corrine and Steppen. And you can have the definitely romantic and sexy Alana and her warders relationship. So I liked that they were telling the audience, like, we've shown you one couple, like one duo. That's just their thing. That's not just their thing.
Yeah, it's not the thing. It's their thing. Which I want to mention that I thought it was what a fucking man thing to do. But when Lan, so when Alana and her sexy warders, sexy little kittens, not kittens, very dangerous, sharp kitties.
Her panthers.
They're little panthers. I just love the way they like lounge and are like, I loved them when they go off to have their when they go off to have their sexy time, and she goes, they don't, and everybody's like, yeah, they do, bitch. Like, yeah, it's obvious because they do. And then Lan goes, I need to go as well. Like, obviously, Nynaeve is going to think that you're going to do the same friggin' thing with Moiraine. Like,
that was intentional.
I know, but I thought it was so funny that he was like,
it was very funny.
Speaking of uber sexy times between warders and their Aes Sedai, I have to go. When the look on her face would have been the look on my face too. I'd be like, are you fucking kidding me? After all of this banter we've had, after all of this very charged spiritual interactions we've had, I saw you praying, bitch.
I really liked it. That whole scene was so fun. They really did like capture that the cat like grace of the warders, especially the two warders who were totes gay for each other. I know they have names. It's like Ivan and something.
Ivan is the black one, and I forget the white one's name.
I don't care about their names. The gay warders were fantastic. My only complaint about the gay shit in that episode is that it wasn't more explicit.
More gay?
I just like wanted them to kiss or for someone to say like, wow, they're gay. Just because I was watching it and I was watching it and it's obvious to anyone who cares to see it that they're gay. But by not making it explicit, yes, it might be sloppy to make it explicit. And I know we've
But they
complained about the
did.
lack of subtlety before. Not
They
really.
did make it explicit. Yes, when Nynaeve says they don't, and everybody says they do, right? That means the three of them are having sex. That's gay.
I just never underestimate the power of a homophobe to deny what is obvious. And
well, see, I'm different. I'm differing with you there because I think a homophobe would see that and be like, "That's gay."
Well, there's two kinds. There's going to be the person who leaps to saying, that's gay, I'm not going to watch the show anymore. But then there's going to be people who say, look, they're just really close friends. And like, yeah, maybe they're both having sex with Alana, but not with each other. I've seen the way the homophobic mind works and the gymnastics it can do. Anyway, this is not an important point.
I think there's going to be time. I think there's going to be time. Alana and Ivan and what's his name are clearly bigger characters than they were in the books. I think we're going to get time for them to be kissing.
Yes, Pintar,
which I do want to see them kissing.
They are certainly bisexual. I'm using gay as the umbrella category for queer. But you're right. That they are certainly bisexual. But no, it's great. I love seeing it. I love seeing my bi-warder bros. I love seeing the open sexuality of Alana and her warders. I love that Nynaeve is still like prudish and small towny about it.
Mm-hmm.
Really great episode. Okay, I would like to talk about Nynaeve and Lan's scene in the woods.
That's what I want. That's what I want to talk about. I thought it was so gentle and very sweet. Gentle. First of all, Lan praying.
Yeah. And we see characters do that.
Yeah. Do we see Lan praying ever?
Well, we know like Lan definitely engages in the like may the last embrace of the mother welcome you home kind of spirituality.
Right. I want to say something really quick about that. I am very much liking how this show portrays spirituality as something to be respected. I think in a lot of modern, let's say, prestige television, religion and spirituality is kind of seen as like for suckers or for villains, right? To be used by bad guys to manipulate lesser-minded people, right? I'm not talking about media at large because, media at large is incredibly Christian.
Right.
But a prestige television of like HBO, Stars, and, all of these big shows, religion and spirituality is kind of seen as like stupid, or for the lesser-minded, right?
Do you have, I'm not doubting you, but do you have an example to bring to mind?
I'll say Game of Thrones. Okay. Right? All the spirituality in that, even the sparrows and the High Sparrow, right? Religion is used as like a weapon, and sort of like spirituality and like being pious is like for brainwashed people, or people manipulating them.
This is where I will disagree, because I thought of Game of Thrones the exact same. That was what I was thinking of as well, and I think that is true of organized religion in these shows, and I think that's true. But I think that's also true in the Wheel of Time, because I think that's what the White Cloaks represent. Like I see the White Cloaks as similar to the way the High Sparrow was represented. But I don't think spirituality at large in Game of Thrones was negatively portrayed. Like the Starks were incredibly spiritual. The people who worshipped the Seven were spiritual. The Weirwood, like a lot of the spirituality of Essos in that story. So I think it was, the criticism is often organized religion. And
okay, sure.
I think Lan hasn't been shown yet to be more than just kind of like animistic spirituality rather than.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I just think that they are showing spirituality. They're showing prayers. They're showing praying and rituals with a lot of respect, which I'm finding very interesting.
No, I like the point. And the show definitely had a ton of respect for Lan in that moment. Like it wasn't done critically or ironically at all. Which was good. I liked it for Lan. Like I liked the connection back to Malkier and to his parents, and it made me sad watching it because it's like, this is what he has left.
Right, because the show audience doesn't know that he's the last Malkieri.
Right. But I think it was good. Yeah. But no, I definitely hear your point, and I like it. And I like just generally, like, I think that's generally a trend of the show. This is not a show that is like wrought with cynicism and irony broadly.
Yeah, I like
Like,
that. I've seen a
it's
lot
not
of
a yeah.
prestige shows be very cynical and dark. Phew, God bless me. And cynicism is kind of seen as like cool, right? It's like
Right.
smart to be like, don't trust everything you see, right? Like spiritually, religion, that's for weaker people. And that's seen as like smart and shrewd. But this one is like, it's very cool and actually respectful and lovely that a smart and capable, non-emotional man would still want to do a ritual for himself every once in a while.
Yeah. And I think
think it's
also, like,
beautiful.
in a world where magic is real, spiritual rituals make lots of sense.
Yeah, make a lot of sense.
If I were Lan and someone was like, "Oh, you think that shit's possible?" and I'd be like, "Well, I travel with a witch who throws fireballs and heals me with her mind, and I fight Trollocs all the time, and I'm literally in battle with the cosmic entity of darkness." Anyway,
let me have my rituals with my little
yeah.
water ball.
I love the lack of fear of sincerity in the show, and I also think that's true of the books as well. And like, not that the show and the books aren't cynical about certain parts of humanity, like they definitely are. It's just that cynicism isn't the assumption, and it's not like assumed to be right.
Mm-hmm. And SC2 Wingless, this is a good transition moment. I think the exact same thing. The Isla Perrin scene was also very similarly in the same spirit. And
Yeah, for sure.
I found it very interesting that we actually get reference to it from Aram, saying that only children and what does he say? Only children and fools believe that the song is real.
Yeah.
And then we get the scene talking where Isla says, I believe that the pattern will spin out my daughter in several generations, and she will have a better world then. And that's what I'm working for. Oh gosh, it made me very emotional.
It was very sad. Yeah, I loved Isla's scene. And what I really liked, first of all, I thought Isla's scene in her speech about, I'm not making the world peaceful and a better place for myself. I'm not doing it for my kids. I'm not doing it for my people. I'm doing it because far in the future, people will exist still, and I hope they have a better life. And she framed it in like what could be argued, if I were a more cynical person, which Mary Lou knows that I am, it could be argued that it's still like selfish to frame that mentality and the idea of my daughter will be spun out in the future. So that's why it's still personal to me and why I care. But I don't think that's what she was doing. Like, I think it's just the acknowledgement of like, because
trying to make the world a better place.
Right. When her daughter's soul is spun out in the future, nothing of her daughter will be there, It's just the idea of like the continuity of life and humanity, and like loving for the sake of recognizing the human in strangers and in the future.
And there are really couple implications of that discussion that I really liked. One, I just loved the line of what better revenge against death is life. What better revenge against, what else does she say? Darkness is light.
Yeah, it was.
She says two.
What better revenge against violence than peace, against death than life?
Thank you. What better revenge against violence than peace? What better revenge against darkness or death than life? Oh, yeah. So beautiful. That's really beautiful. That like ties up the Tuatha and in such a beautiful bow, but also the implications that Aram says and what Isla say about the turning of the wheel, right? Where he says only fools believe in the song. The song isn't real. We know the song is real. We know there really was a song and it really did bring harmony and peace and grew plants.
It's actually interesting because we do know the origins of the Tuatha song mythology. In that, yes, the Tuatha are descended from the Age of Legends Aiel, and we do know that their ancestors had this plant music, which could bring about, like, help life develop. But it wasn't the song. that it
No.
has evolved into in modern day
No.
Tuatha mythology, which is like the song
No.
as Messiah, the song as end times. And I think that's interesting. I like it. Like, this is a very nerdy, like, fantasy religion thing. I love that we know as a reader, like, the narrative irony that the song is the Ogier tree song. That's the song
Right.
they remember because that's what they used to do. But then they've heard the Ogier tree song and they're like, that's not it. Like, that's a powerful magic song, but it's not bringing the salvation of the world. So in that sense, the song doesn't exist.
Right.
But I also think Isla
it's
knows
from
that.
something real.
It's from something real, but I think Isla knows that. And that's what I liked about the juxtaposition of Aram being like focused on the song. Aram is focused on the end goal. And it's like someone saying, and I will preface this by saying I personally am not religious. Mary Lou is more religious than I am. But it's like a person saying, oh, well, this religion is dumb because heaven doesn't exist. And like, that's one tier of understanding what Christianity could be, for example. But then there's other ways of engaging with Christianity where you have theologians and Christian philosophers who are like, duh, obviously heaven doesn't exist. That's not what it's about. It's about this. It's about like understanding it at a different level, understanding your relationship to humanity at a different level. And to me, that's where Isla's at. Aram's focused on the story about the song. Isla doesn't tell Perrin about the song. She doesn't say someday we'll find this song and that will save the world. She's just like, by choosing peace, by choosing nonviolence, if I can convince two people to live this way, maybe we can create a future that is peaceful. And I liked that she was at a completely different place, but that it wasn't based on faith in the song. It was based on a commitment to like the lifestyle and the value of the lifestyle.
Which is where the song comes from, right?
Yeah.
Which is why that the song even exists, right? It's this cultural dedication to peace and life and nonviolence. That's what the song was all about. So, you know, through over the 3,000 years, it's become sort of distilled into a not accurate version of what, you know, the song as Messiah. But yeah, it's very interesting to me that Isla seems to be dedicated to what it was about in the beginning, while you know, not, I don't know. I found it very interesting. I loved their conversation, and I loved how it was right next to Egwene and Aram and Perrin and Isla, right after each other. Very, very good storytelling, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought it was lovely, and I really liked that scene. I love the depiction of the Tuatha. I love that actress who plays Isla. I loved her in Orphan Black. I think she's really great.
Oh, she's good. She's really good.
Yeah, but it's awesome. I thought it was great. But it is like, I found myself distracted throughout, and this isn't like a criticism, just noticing in myself. Having the weight of what he done to Layla on Perrin, it made it hit different. You know, like when he's in the Tuatha camp in the books, it's easier to be with Perrin to me. Like, I like pacifism at a philosophical level, but within the world of the Wheel of Time, Perrin's like, this just isn't reasonable, and you're like, he's not wrong. Yeah. Like, his lived experiences would show that. It's like reasonable that he thinks that. But when I was watching this episode, where I'm like thinking about Layla and Perrin and Layla,
when she said the line, when did you pick up that axe? And has your life been better?
Yeah.
That was a gut punch. And I know that line is directly ripped from the books, but it had a way different impact in the show. Way different, because we know when he picked up that axe, he chopped his wife in the baby maker, and she bled out in his arms. So yeah, his life has been worse since he picked up the axe, like pretty instantly. And so when she said that, I was like, oh, Jesus. It felt a little mean, honestly. Yeah. It felt a little mean.
Mean of the show writers.
Obviously, Isla doesn't know. Mean of the writers to do that to Perrin.
But to Hybrid Havoc's point, this is what I was feeling. Like, in the books, when I'm watching Perrin in the Tuatha camp, there is no question in my mind that Perrin
is right.
Not that he's right, but it's not even it's not a live possibility that Perrin abandons his violent ways and accepts the way of the leaf.
Right.
Like, there's no chance that that happens because Perrin is very confident of where he is based on his lived experiences. Watching this episode, I'm like, there is a world. It's not this one because I know where the story's going, but there is a turning where Perrin joins the Tinkers right here. And
absolutely, that he adopts the way of the leaf.
Yeah, which I actually thought was interesting. Like, I thought it was. I'm not a fan of how they depicted the Layla chopping, and jury's still out on whether it will in the end be a good choice. I do think like whether or not it will be a good choice narratively, I don't like the way the show reveled in her death personally. But to their credit for making this change, I think it made this interaction much more poignant than it otherwise would have been. And it makes it gives Perrin like a live decision to make that he wasn't making in the show. Like the axe versus hammer debate in the books, it wasn't a decision.
Pretty meaningless.
It was a regret. It was I'm always going to choose the axe, but man, it would be nice to pick the hammer. And now I'm like, I feel like he might pick the hammer.
And that's really cool because, you know, as Detective Mosley says, Perrin has shit to do in the books, right? Or they give him one job and he does it over like 4 or 5 books. And so, yeah, this is giving him something really interesting to wrestle with. I kind of wish it wasn't from chopping his wife in the uterus, but the implications of it, these are interesting implications, and we're seeing them wrestle with it now. Yeah. It's not like it just happened and then we don't deal with it. He's dealing with it and we're watching it. And I'm kind of, it's definitely more effective seeing the way that line hit this time than in the books.
Yeah, I still don't think it had to be Layla. Like, I like Brandon Sanderson's suggestion that it could have been Master Luhan. Like,
I wish it was Master Luhan.
I think that would have been great. But whatever. That said, though, like, I thought it was going to be completely pointless and add nothing to the story except distraction. And I am admitting publicly that I was wrong about that. And I do like what it's contributed to episode 4. But speaking about episode 4, we got before we leave Egwene and Perrin, Egwene and Aram danced, and it was nice and whatever. And also, Perrin was fixing wagons for fun, which I laughed when I saw him doing.
I feel like that's an Easter egg for sure.
I do love Perrin fixing wagons for fun, but let's move on. Do we have anything else we want to talk about with the Warder Camp before we quickly move on to Rand's Mat storyline?
Oh, really quick, I want to talk about the conversation between Logain and Moiraine.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
When he, well, I forgot about it too until this moment. When he busted out of his cage and Moiraine came walking in and they looked at each other so calmly, I was thinking, like, what in God's name is about to happen? Like, I do not know what's going to happen right now. Are they going to throw knives at each other? Are they going to kiss? Are they going to, like, all of a sudden, like, explosion battle? And then when she was just like, we need to talk, I was like, oh shit, that's so Moiraine. And she's much like sneakier in the show than like we really get to see in the books. The fact that she's like, I cannot. We don't have a lot of time before everybody else shows up, so let's talk. I was like, dang, that's a bad thing to do, right? She should be trying to shield and fight him right now, but she's not. She wants to talk.
Do you think she was stalling, or do you think this was like the first, like Moiraine as zealot for the real Dragon Reborn, even though she doesn't know who it will be, telling this false dragon to get the fuck out of the way?
Both. I think it was both. I think we saw in that scene with her and Lan, the one where Lan says, "You always get emotional when I drink." Loved that.
Great
that
line.
was
hysterical.
Great line. And very funny and a good illustration of how they are both physically and spiritually bonded, right? Love that. Anyway, she mentions that she has doubt, right? There's this seed of doubt. And so I can see her, one, stalling for time. I think that was really a thing that smart Moiraine would do. She probably wouldn't try and fight him on her own. No. Even though she should, right? Like, that's what a good policeman would do, you know, go for it. You don't wait for backup. And she's waiting for backup. She's like, don't wait for backup. But also it's like, maybe I can get some information out of this moment. And I've seen a lot of questions on Twitter and in our chat. How did she know from what he said that he is not the false dragon? How did she know? And Sarah, what do you think about that?
That he was not the Dragon Reborn, you mean?
Yes, that he is a false dragon and not the real dragon, based on either did she know it from the beginning and she was just acting, she was just stalling the whole time, or did he say something that made her realize there's no way he could be the dragon?
That's a good question. I would want to re-watch that scene before I gave a definitive answer that he did not say something that made her think she wasn't, that made her think he wasn't the dragon. I think he would have had to overcome a lot to be the dragon in her mind, because she was there for Gitara's foretelling. She does know the Dragon Reborn is 20. So I don't know how much it was even a live option for her. I think it was something she considered, because you can't like make assumptions with the end of times, but I think, yeah, I don't know. I mean, do you have something in mind? Did he say something that you thought was meaningful there?
I think so, and I could be wrong, right? I'm wrong a lot, but
Yeah, we both
how
are.
I read that moment, I mean, totally, right? We just say things with our chest. I saw that moment as she really did have a sliver of a doubt, and it remained. And while nobody else could listen, she wanted to put that doubt to rest. And so she asked him, why are you the Dragon Reborn? And when he said, I hear the voices of past dragons, they want me to be better. The pattern wants me to be better. And that's when she knows, oh, you don't get it. You don't get it.
Yeah. And there are people in the chat who agree with you. They're saying the same thing. But why would the dragon know that? Like, if I were a new reader, I could see that.
I have a second point.
Yeah, sorry.
I have a second point in that she became convinced in that moment that he was not the Dragon Reborn. But spoilerific content, Rand is going to go through the exact same thing, same thing, having a past dragon giving him advice and talking to him. And maybe she'll have to confront, she's wrong. I thought that was very interesting that she was like, ha, I've caught you. There's no way you could be the dragon because you're hearing the voices of past dragons. That just means you're mad. And I think that maybe she, when it starts happening to Rand, either she'll think, oh shit, he's going mad, just like Logain was, or she'll be like, oh fuck, maybe I was wrong about what the dragon will be.
Well, interesting thing about that, Lews Therin probably just is a manifestation of Rand's madness. But we can talk about that another time when we see it. Yeah, I could see her becoming convinced by his I don't even know misunderstanding. She's like, the wheel doesn't want things, only people want things. And maybe that's where she was like, you don't have a innate intuitive connection to my understanding of cosmology, and that's how she knew he wasn't the dragon. In which case, like, she would be wrong to make that conclusion. That way. Because
I think so too. Her statement is correct, but wrong that like the dragon would innately understand this, right? Because we know Rand doesn't.
Yeah. That's interesting. I like the idea. That is not how I understood the scene. I thought she just already kind of knew he wasn't the dragon, but was like having a moment of self-doubt based on how strong he was. But then probably was like, no, like I think she wanted to see him and look in his eyes. And maybe that was enough to be like, I'm not feeling it. I don't know. I like the idea. Maybe she will give us some insight in the next episode into whether or not that was her thought process.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, Moiraine is wrong all the time. Like, I like the idea of Moiraine making the decision that way and being wrong about it.
She happens to be right, but for the wrong reasons, right?
Yeah, which I like.
Which I think is really interesting, the implications of that in the future, what it means for the Aes Sedai's interaction with Rand. But yeah, it's entirely possible that she was just stalling for time, which is something she would do.
But speaking of stalling for time, let's move on to Rand and Mat, because we need to get Vic in here shortly. But I don't want to leave the third storyline untouched. No, I haven't invited her yet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I told her 10 minutes. We got 10 minutes for Rand and Mat.
Okay, really good stuff. Okay, Dagger Mat. Whoa.
Yeah.
When he barfs and then the Mashadar is just like in his nose and on the ground in his bile. Grody. I love it. I think it's a very, cool visual representation of Mashadar that I do think TV watchers need to understand the infection like we do of Mashadar and Matt.
Marissa, only 10 minutes today. We'll talk about it again with Vic this afternoon, and then we're back on Monday, baby. We can talk about it on Monday.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, okay.
And I'm sure we will talk about this storyline a lot with Vic, because I think this is the one she's going to want to talk about the most.
Yeah. And this is also the one where I think we benefit most from a non-reader's point of view, because I'm really interested how she perceives the visual depiction of the Mashadar infection.
Does she understand that he's changing, right? His attitude, right. Like he's different when he was in that trance.
Yeah, because I obviously never imagined it this way. And I say obvious just because it's never described as a visual thing.
Never described this way. No.
Other people might have imagined it that way, but I did not. And so when the first time I saw it in the show, I was like, what? That's a choice. And I left the episode feeling like it was fine. Like, it didn't bother me. Like, I wasn't
I love it.
If I met Rafe in an elevator, that's not what I would ask him about. But I did not love it. I wasn't inspired by it. I was like, okay, whatever. I guess if they felt like they had to do it. But I thought it was a little unsubtle. But Mary Lou, I will say, Mary Lou and I talked just briefly, right before we went live. And I think you changed my mind a little bit. So you think it's necessary for non-readers?
I think it's absolutely necessary for non-readers, because the only mention, the only visual reference to maybe Matt being affected by the dagger is when they meet the farmer, right? They're surprised by the farmer in the forest. And what is Matt's his first instinct is to reach for his dagger, which we know is the gold dagger that he found in Mashadar. And Rand sees this, and you can see in his eyes he's confused and scared, and that's why he steps forward to diffuse the situation. So that is our only reference to the dagger and Matt, and them maybe having a connection that is negative. And that's not very obvious. In fact, that's very subtle and might be too subtle. So I like the next time we see Matt, he's saying, I need a break. And then he barfs up Mashadar. Yeah.
Well, that's the second time we see Matt reach for the dagger. When he encounters, this is not I'm not well actuallying you. I'm just remembering Matt does pull the dagger on Tom at the Aiel cage when Tom comes up behind him.
Yes. I guess I just mean in this episode.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Because that moment where he pulls the knife on Tom, that makes sense to me. I would also probably pull a knife on Tom. Yeah. But in this moment, especially with Rand's face telling me that this is not normal, that Matt is behaving strangely and dangerously, that's the first reference to me I see that the dagger might be having some sort of negative effect on Matt. And I think it's too subtle for just a TV watcher to pick so much up from just that moment. So the Mashadar in his body, infecting him in his nose and mouth and fluids, I think was absolutely necessary, in my opinion, to portray to TV watchers that he's infected, right? He has introduced an alien agent into his body that is changing him. It's a little venom, but I like it.
It is a little venom. I think it is if it had just been on him, I do think what stood out to me immediately when I watched it happen is that he vomited, and then we saw Mashadar swirling around on the wood. And that's what to me where I was like, ooh, that feels a little maybe he is that infectious. I mean, the Aes Sedai are scared as shit of him and that dagger. So maybe it is fine. I was just surprised, but that's okay. I did.
Are you surprised by how quickly it's progressing? Because that's true. It is progressing very quickly.
Surprised by I was afraid it was going to leave a little baby Mashadar that would swirl around and live there now.
Okay.
That's what I was afraid is that he's physically spreading Mashadar around the world.
Oh my God. Yeah, that would be terrifying.
I don't think that's what's happening. That was just a conclusion I drew from the depiction of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I loved Matt's scene with Elsa though. really sweet.
Elsa Grinwell is definitely not the Elsa Grinwell that we know.
She is not Elsa Grinwell, because that used to be her name on the call sheet and they changed it because
she's not Elsa Grinwell? I thought she was.
No, she's just like a Grinwell. She's a young Grinwell.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I remember the actress says, "Yes, I play Elsie Grinwell." So I guess that's
that's like what she was called on the call sheet, and then later the show was like, "Wait, we can't call her that Elsa Grinwell. It's like a dumb bimbo."
Yeah, it's a little rude. She's just an innocent child with her Birgitta doll.
Oh, so sweet. I loved her. I thought she did great.
Easter egg.
Great Easter egg.
Yeah. Great Easter egg from Rafe and the writers, because we won't see Birgitta for seasons, so it's not like that was like foreshadowing, because
they called her also in the subtitles. Shows what I know. Yeah, but I really loved that moment, and Mary Lou and I talked a bit about this before the stream. My favorite moment from the Matt and Rand story is Matt taking care of sick Rand on the road after Four Kings, and like Matt powering through the corruption of the dagger to take care of his friend. And I still desperately want to see that scene later, but I think this hit the same buttons of Matt's good, like loving nature shining through, even as we're seeing him so thoroughly corrupted by this darkness.
I love that. Great. Yeah. And I loved how I called this last week. If you remember, I love how Tom thinks that Matt is like Owen, right? So I did not call that Matt would be set up as the male channeler, as the Dragon Reborn, right? Which Tom has no idea that one of them is the Dragon Reborn, right? All he knows is that all he thinks is that someone is a male channeler, and Rand is the one who's like, "Oh fuck, that means he's the Dragon Reborn." But I called that Tom was going to connect Matt to Owen instead of Rand to Owen, like he does in the books. And I thought that was really, really cool. Made a lot of sense, and is a very interesting, like, red herring moment.
I also think it puts squash to the theory I saw floating around that the man we see in the very first scene with Liandrin in episode 1 is Owen. That's not Owen. That would have taken that wouldn't have been enough time. Owen is further back in Tom's past. And
right.
I just saw some people identifying that character. I think that character is a nameless male channeler.
I think he's a nameless male channeler. Yeah, I like that theory, but it just doesn't seem possible.
And then, of course, we find the whole Grinwell family done got murdered dead.
They done got. Now, Sarah, did you think that Matt did it?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I was like, fuck, I can't believe they fucked up this bad. And then it was a murder, and I was like, oh, phew.
So that was the plot point that I saw. Remember last week, y'all, when I saw the timeline on the Amazon Explore page, and they accidentally had episode 4's plot points up as well. That was the one plot point I saw, that Matt walked in on an entire family slaughtered, and people think it was him, but it was really a murder. So I already knew that was going to happen. But did you think, so we have questions in the comment, and I've seen this question on Twitter. Do you think that the Myrddraal was hiding from Matt? Or do you think that the Myrddraal was trying to set Matt up as the killer?
Yeah, my first thought is the Myrddraal was trying to set him up as the killer there. But I think the Myrddraal might have just been scared of the dagger.
Yeah, so how I saw that moment was maybe the Myrddraal was trying to set up, it'll be so fun, right, to kill this whole family, and then they'll blame each other, right, or I don't know what. But to me, that seems like probably just the Myrddraal was having fun killing. Seems like a little too long gamey for a Myrddraal that just wants to, like, grab him up and run. But what?
There has been an interesting theory raised in the chat.
Oh, what?
Pusset thinks it's a double twist there, and that Matt did do it. And they're trying to set us off. Oh, sorry. It was a whole conversation.
I don't understand. I don't understand that comment. Yeah.
Or it was maybe Matt who murdered the family after all. Not our boy! Not our beautiful boy! And to which Pusset responded that it might be a double twist. The Baalzamon dream we saw Rand have, we see Matt like acting all weird and creepy. So maybe that will reveal Matt did do it, and the Myrddraal just was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I would
highly doubt that. Cassett, I love that. I love that theory, but I just don't think a character could ever come back from murdering an entire family, including the children. Right? Like you would just never. The Whittle Go that he like bonded with, I don't think that Matt killed them. What I do think is that the fade was interrupted, right?
Yeah.
I think the powers that are in Matt now, Mashadar's evil powers, right? I think he awoke in his trance and sensed some evil and was like, I'm gonna go fuck that evil. Mashadar did, rather. Matt Shadar got up and Matt Shadar walked to, the farmhouse and as he was about to open the door, I bet the fade was like, what the fuck is that? Oh shit. And he went,
Yeah, he just octopused up into the balcony.
Batmaned up into the shadows. What I did love. What?
Rand did kill a whole village. But Rand, when he bale-fired Natrim's barrow.
Okay, well, I don't think that's going to happen in the show. I don't think that's going to happen in the show. We'd already spent 7, 8 books loving Rand in that moment.
Yeah.
There was no way we can not forgive him, but we've only spent 3 episodes with Matt, and if he just Matt Shadar, I really like Matt Shadar. That makes sense to me. Rolls off the tongue nice. But I think the fade was like, oh fuck, this was a villain. This was an enemy I did not expect, and so he was trying to hide when Matt Shadar says, just in time for Rand and Matt to, Tom and Rand to witness it. He goes, I see you, even though it's supposed to be the Myrddraal's special power that they can hide in the shadows, which I did love. I loved how you can see him dematerializing into the shadows and then coming out in a different place. That was cool.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I think it's interesting. What I do love about the theory that Posset puts forward is how indicative it is that even as a bunch of book readers, the show keeps us guessing and gives us room to enjoy theorizing again, which is so fun. And it's exciting and fun to theorize about it.
Yes.
But this is where we'll have to end this part of the episode, Mary Lou. So final thoughts, final rating out of 17.
Out of 17, I give it a very solid 14.3.
And I give it a very solid 15.1 out of 17. When I gave the show a 9 out of 10 on Twitter last night, people were like, what about the last star? You got to leave room for the show to grow. You can't just
baby.
blow your review wad right at the beginning.
Yeah. I will say the things I'm really excited for. I'm really excited to see Nynaeve wrestle with her channeling abilities that she almost certainly will despise. I'm really excited to see Rand and Matt alone on the road. Maybe they use Tom's Gleeman lessons, right? Maybe we see that on their way to Tar Valon. I don't think we're going to see Tom again. I think this is his Whitebridge moment. So I don't think we're going to see him until much later. And I'm really excited to see, how Perrin deals with, does he choose the way of the leaf?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really exciting going forward. But we're not done with this episode, y'all. We're about to talk to Vic, but we do have to do a little closing for YouTube. Mary Lou, would you like to do the honors?
I would love to. Thank you for watching. We are Maidens of the Spear, where we talk Wheel of Time, and we have a really good time. I'm Mary Lou.
Good time. I'm Sarah Kaplan. You can find me on Twitter at Spear Maidens.
And you can find me on Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram at Mary Lou Larry Moo. It's in the name. You can copy it. You can paste it. Be sure to smash that like and that follow on YouTube and Twitch, or join our Patreon. We'd love to have you there.
All of those are Maidens of the Spear, and we'd love to see you. Bye.